What's up guys, Justin here from CBI Off-Road. We got a Nissan 2022 Frontier right here. This is our Covert bumper. We're gonna show you how to install it. You can get a single row 30-inch light bar and a Warn 10K winch. We'll show you the install. All right, so our first step is we're gonna jump over here to the inner wheel well. We got two Phillips screws on each side that we're gonna pull those out and then just kind of pull outward on this fender flare. Not too hard, we don't wanna pop these clips out, just kind of release the front. So we're gonna do that on both sides, and then we're gonna jump underneath and remove the skid plate. There's some 14mm head bolts down there we're gonna get to. All right, so our next step is we're gonna remove these skid plate support brackets, and the tow hooks are kind of all held in with two 15mm bolts on each side of the vehicle. So we'll get those pulled out, and then we'll start working our way across with these 10mm bolts. All right, so next step is we're gonna remove these 6 plastic clips on top. I got this clip removal tool, but a flathead screwdriver works just fine as well. And if you have a front camera, now's a good time to squeeze the tabs together and unplug that camera. All right, so with those clips out, now we can pull outward on the top of the grill on both sides. And then what we're gonna do is reach in here and start working the clips out that are along the bottom. Once I get a few of them done, we'll get you a tight shot on how to do that. All right, now we're gonna remove 3 more of these plastic clips, same way we removed the top ones up here, and then we're gonna start working the front plastic bumper off. We do need to get it out a little bit, reach under there and unplug the fog lights if you have those. Just squeezing a tab, very similar to the connector that you remove for your camera. So we'll get the 3 clips, start working the plastic out. All right, so we got 3 more plastic clips that we're gonna remove. Then we're also gonna reach onto the inner wheel wells, and behind the fender flare, there's a couple more Phillips head screws that we're gonna pull those out, and then we'll be able to reach up in there and unplug the fog lights if you have those. Connector is gonna be very similar to your camera, where you just squeeze the tab and pull downward. All right, so we got our fog lights unplugged. Next step is we're gonna remove this plastic bumper. So we got good access here. We're gonna pull outward and just kind of work our way up. This is clipped in to this crease right here. So that's our target, is we're gonna work our way, start pulling this outward. I got a plastic pry tool and a microfiber rag to kind of work our way upward this way too. But the goal is on both sides, just get this worked out from this crease. All right, so let's get this foam piece out. And we have these clips all the way around here, very similar to the clips we pulled out the grill with. You can choose to kind of pop these out. I'm just gonna cut them because I don't want to deal with it. And then we have a 10mm bolt in each corner here that we're gonna remove. Basically, the goal is remove this black section right here. So it's just those bolts and these clips to get worked out, and then we'll start our sanding process. All right, so now we got the fun part. We're gonna do a little cutting and a little bit of sanding. So basically we have this raised plastic edge that previous black piece retained in. So we're just gonna cut along this edge right here in between these clip openings, and then we'll sand it right up to this line here. So just be careful we don't damage this face here because this will be exposed. So we wanna do all our sanding right up to that line, all the way across. All right, so we're just gonna take a couple minutes and talk about our cutting tools here. Now you can use something different if that works for you, but this is what we're using here. So I got a 5-inch cutoff wheel on this electric tool. We have the pneumatic cutoff wheel here. This is a 3-inch wheel on the kind of hard to reach places on the corners. And then we're gonna dial it up. This is a 5-inch sanding disc here. So that'll be what we use to finish out the cut, make it really nice and clean. So don't get greedy with the cutting. I mean, definitely leave a good 1/8 inch. Because you can dial that in with the sander. So we'll get to cutting, then we'll come back, get it sanded up. All right, so we got everything cut. Now we're gonna start dialing it in with our sanding wheel. So we didn't go all the way up to our finished surface. That's what we got this guy for. So just take it easy, hold this nice and flat. Don't push really hard against the surface. Just kind of let it glide across. And then on these corners, just go really slow and just kind of make those small strokes like that. Don't go too deep. Okay, so now that we got everything sanded, what I'm doing now is I have this deburr tool. You can also use a razor blade if you don't have one of these, but these really come in handy because it has that little curve there that you can kind of lock that in on the inside and just really ride that edge and clean up all that excess plastic we have there, all the little burrs. This will take care of all that. So I'm just gonna hit the entire surface here, get it all cleaned up, and we'll be good to go. Okay, so now we're gonna dive into the truck and start removing some components. So we got this foam here, we're just gonna pop that right out. These plastic pieces can also come out. We just have plastic clips holding those on, so just pop those out, tear these out like a madman. Moving down, we got our adaptive cruise control. So we're gonna unclip this and ultimately remove this, and we'll get remounted in our relocation kit that came with your CBI bumper. Next is gonna be the crash bar, and that's held on with 16mm bolts, and we just have this little 10mm bracket to remove on this side, and we'll be good to go. So we'll dive in and start taking this out. All right, right before we take off the crash bar, we need to remove this secondary skid plate, 4 10mm bolts, and it's down. All right, so I went ahead and pulled our adaptive cruise control sensor out of the crash bar over there. So what we're gonna do now is mount it into our supplied CBI relocation bracket. So take the bracket where it offsets forward, and the sensor is gonna mount in just like this, and then it'll be secured underneath the factory mounting points of the camera. If you don't have the camera, that's okay. Those holes are gonna be there, and we have screws for you in your kit. So just reuse those if you do have the camera, and we'll get this secured in place. All right, so let's build this adaptive cruise control setup. So we have our sensor out of our factory crash bar and our CBI bracket. So we're just gonna lay this flat, drop in the sensor, make sure the connector is facing through that hole, and then we're gonna install our 1/4-inch bolts from the backside. Get a washer on there and a nut. We're gonna start all these first, and then we'll tighten them down with a 7/16 wrench. right, so we're good to go with the sensor. We can set that to the side, start prepping our bumper. Quick note on that, we've had great success with the sensor relocation kits that we provide. If you do have any issues, simple recalibration at Nissan probably do you just fine. So give it a shot, run it. Like I said, we've had great success with them, but if you start having issues, just go to Nissan, they'll get it recalibrated for you, you'll be good to go. All right, now we're ready to prep the bumper for install. So we can do this one of two ways. We can basically build everything out right here on the table, install the winch, install the light bar, then install the bumper on the truck, or we can install the bumper on the truck and then we still have enough room to slide the winch in and light bar while the bumper's mounted to the truck. That's the way I'm gonna do, but either way is up to you. I'll show you both ways. Come in for a close-up. All right, so let's talk about our light bar. This is a single row 30-inch light bar. That's what the bumper's designed for, and these are our light bar mounting brackets. So they kind of have that offset in them. We just want to make sure that we install them in this fashion to where the mounting into the bumper is away from the light bar, and then we're just going to use the hardware that came with the light bar to attach our bracket to the light bar. All right, so let's attach our light bar to the bumper. So we swing up our brackets. We got our 1/4-inch carriage bolts. Insert them through the slot that's in the bumper. Throw a washer and a nut on the other side. And we'll repeat this process for the other side as well as the bolt right here. All right, so when installing the winch, we got these 4 holes in the bottom of the bumper. That's what we're gonna use to install the winch. So you can fit up to a 12K winch in this bumper. We're running a 10K right now. This is a standard pattern for basically all the major winches. This is 4.5 inches by 10 right here. So that's what we're gonna use to mount the winch. Like I said, we're gonna throw ours in with the bumper on the vehicle, so stay tuned for that. All right, so last thing we're gonna mention before we install this bumper. I know you're getting antsy to get this thing on. So we got our big spacers right here. These just need to sit right here on both sides just because of the design of the front of the Frontier. So we need these to take up some space on the bottom of the frame. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get this started. We're reusing our factory hardware. I just applied some anti-seize to the bolt. It's always a good idea with captive nuts. Let's slide in these spacers on each side, get the holes lined up. We're reinstalling the factory hardware that held on the tow hook, and again with the anti-seize. Just get them started by hand, and then we'll tighten everything up once we get all the bolts started. All right, we got all our bolts started, 17mm socket to tighten it up. Now we're just going to tighten our remaining bolts. All right, so quick pro tip when installing the winch with the method we're doing with the bumper on the vehicle, we're going to slide in our, we're actually going to slide in now our bolt and leave it there. But to keep that from happening, we're going to put a piece of tape on here keep that nut in place, because obviously it wants to slide out. So just right there is all you need. And we're going to do that to all 4 sides, and that'll help retain everything while we put it in. right, so now I'm just routing our wiring out of the bumper area. What we did here is our winch wirings coming across the top, joining up with our light bar, and then going up and out into the engine bay. So I'm just using zip ties, kind of bunch this together, make it look really clean on the way out. So we got our winch secured, we got all our wiring ran and secured. It's time to throw the plastic back on. Also, you can kind of reach behind to access those fog lights to plug those back in. And just be careful as you're going on that you don't scratch the front of the fender flare. But we'll go ahead and get this in place and then get the grill back on. Okay, so we got everything tightened down with the bumper. Next step is we're gonna get our little rubber washers and basically put them between the bumper and the plastic, equal on both sides so you get this spacing. And then you're gonna thread in the supplied 10mm bolt to the factory clip nut that's located right here. Before you do that though, reach up in there, plug in your fog lights if you have them, and then take a razor blade and just kind of trim the access here and tuck it inside the bumper. All right, so now we're just gonna bolt on these decorative plates. If you have the bull bar, it's gonna bolt in these same 3 locations. So just get that plate, and again with the anti-seize, put some up on that bolt. We'll just thread these in, get them started by hand, and then we'll come back and tighten them down. All right, so moving on, we're just gonna pop these plastic clips back into here, and then we'll be ready to plug this stuff in and throw our grill on. Got our Phillips screws we need to get back in the fender flare on both sides. We'll be good to go. All right guys, we made it to the finish line. There's our final product. Hope you liked the video. Definitely hit like, subscribe, and leave us a comment below. Thanks.